Good evening, everyone. This is Austin here with you live. And I decided to kick this off on the live streams that would be LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook to give a moment to address our live audience. We're doing a little soft launch here. And then a couple minutes in, I'm going to launch the live recording, which will go up to the podcast. This is a big announcement. I am elated to be here tonight. Feeling so many things. There's so many great things on the horizon, and there's so many things that are going to help you along your journey. I'm going to give it a moment. And what I'm going to do as we're warming up this live, I don't know when you're going to get this on the social media platforms, but I want to say welcome. Thanks for being here. You're going to get a lot from this. I had asked my good friend, colleague, accountability buddy, and previous podcast guest on my podcast, Mr. Jim Hetherington, to join me tonight to help me roll out this announcement. It's always good to have somebody in your corner, somebody to check your six, if you know what that means. That's if you're in the flying world, pilots, when they fly, there's somebody behind them, another pilot, which is their six. They call it their six. And you always want to have somebody checking your six. I learned that from Lieutenant Colonel Rob Waldo Waldman. Anyway, let's bring on Mr. Jim Hetherington here. Let's give him a round of applause. Hello, Jim.
Hey, Austin, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
This is so exciting.
It is exciting. And tonight, Jim, what are we normally doing tonight?
Normally, we're checking in with each other, just seeing how our week has been going and just sharing some new thoughts, some new ideas. We hash them out. We work them in. That's what we usually do on a Thursday night.
Right. And I want to thank you for helping me do this. It's always good to have somebody with you. So in a couple minutes, I'm going to relaunch here. This is a soft launch. If you're just joining, I want to call out our live audience. So if you are joining live, let me say thank you. I want to thank everybody who's followed this journey of mine. It's going on 5 years from the time that I jumped. I left my corporate job. I'll be talking about that in this podcast. I'll be talking about the big announcement that's coming up and what can you do? I've had people say to me, what's the best way to follow you? Where should I go? Because I have lots of things that I put out there on social media in different places because there's different audiences and there's different content that you try to, ask. You want to figure out what best serves. You know what I'm saying, Jim? Like when you post, are you doing the same thing?
Yeah, I'm posting them all over the place. And yeah, I mean, the best way for people to follow you is just jump on anywhere and everywhere. That's the best way to do it.
That's true. There's a lot of things out there, but I want to make it easier tonight. And so what I want to do here is I'm going to relaunch here the show. You can stay with us on the live, but we're going to be taking this recording, this live recording, and we're going to be adding it to the podcast. We want to give people access to this playback because there's going to be some great things in here discussed. Some of this is planned. Some of it is completely impromptu, which I kind of love that because there's some great things that come up. If you're in the live audience, feel free to jump in and comment. This is my journey for you. You're not going to take my journey, but what I want you to do is take something from my journey. Does that make sense? And we have TJ is listening live. And welcome, TJ. Thanks for being here. And let's go into this relaunch here. So, Jim, stay with me. I'm going to launch the initial branding for the podcast, and then we'll get right into it. So stay with us. Lots to come. Hello and welcome to the Austin James Haines podcast. You know what time it is. It's time to get free, stay present, and move forward. This is going to be a benchmark, cornerstone, pivotal podcast in my journey. We have a big announcement tonight, but let me ask you, let me welcome you in. And have you thought about reinventing yourself? Have you, maybe you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, I don't know, maybe even older than that. You thought about reinventing yourself. Have you felt disillusioned, doubtful, disenchanted, discontent? I know I have. Have you thought to yourself, it's too late for me to fill in the blank? I want to welcome in my co-host here for this episode. That's Mr. Jim Hetherington. He's a life and business breakthrough specialist. He's also a previous guest of another podcast talking about building credibility. But tonight, he's a colleague, he's a friend, he's part of my accountability group, and he's given me his time to help get this announcement out. So, Jim, I want to welcome you in for this. This is your second time appearing on the podcast.
Yeah, this is exciting. It's always nice to be invited back because you know you didn't do something wrong. So if somebody's invited you a second time, you must be doing something okay, because that's the way you want to leave something, right? With people inviting you back. So I love the topic that you're talking about. You know, is it too late for fill in the blank? And I can't wait to hear the announcements you got.
Yes, thanks, Jim. And I really want to speak to that person who's going to find this podcast. I typically reach a person out there. Of course, we reach many people, thousands, but there's that one person that really resonates with this message. You know, you might be somebody who you've been doing something for a really long time. You're at a job or you lost a job. You might be going through a divorce. You might be thinking about that. You might be thinking about your finances. Maybe you got a lot of money. Maybe you have a lot of money and you're wondering what to do next. What's my next purpose and passion? But conversely, maybe you lost a lot of money and you're thinking, what am I going to do? I need to lock into something. Well, let me tell you, while there's no perfect time to reinvent, I've often heard, Jim, that when somebody is in the valley, when they think it's over, that is like the perfect time to reinvent yourself. And I'm going to talk about that today in my journey. But I can tell you that what got me here, and I want to share a little bit for the new audience that's going to be getting this podcast. I won't give you the whole story, but I battled with low self-worth for much of my life. Not fully aware of it. I felt this, I call it a low-level discontent that was with me, and a limiting beliefs that some were known, some were unknown. And I'm going to talk about that opportunity for folks, because I feel like we all have limiting beliefs at various stages and they're different. And sometimes we don't know about them, but I definitely had that and I was unaware of it. And that really plagued me for a lot of my youth. I would put up a good front, but it was all, house of cards, if you will. Ended up dropping out of college because I was confused, didn't believe in myself. But fortunately, in those down moments, I was able to get a job, and I almost got fired at the job, but I turned things around. I wrote a book about that. And then ultimately I spent 19 years at this job and I was doing really well. I was offered promotions, great company, great people, but there was something inside of me. And maybe you feel like this, the listener. Have you ever felt like, I know there's something else? And I want to say to you, I want to leave you this quote right now. It's never too late. What I opened up with, it's never too late to be who you were meant to be. And I just literally put this quote up, and let me just grab it here because I got the full quote. I want to get the exact quote. And by the way, this quote was a variation of another quote. So I want to give credit to the original author. The original author said, it's never too late to be what you might have been, right? That was the original quote. And that author's George Eliot, but George Eliot was actually a pen name because it was done in the 19th century. And what I learned, Jim, is that it was actually a woman named Mary Ann Evans.
Wow.
Right. And how many women authors didn't feel comfortable writing because they were women at that time. So they often had pen names. And this is one of those cases. And still, when you hear the quote today, it's often you see George Eliot, but it's really Mary Ann Evans. Here's the quote that I took it and I made it my own. It's never too late to become who you always believed you could be. Jim, have you ever felt something deep inside where you felt like I can be more than I'm currently displaying?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're preaching to the choir here tonight, because that was me. In my early 50s, I just I hit a roadblock. I hit burnout, and because I was so busy working at a job that I wasn't fulfilling my work. And I think that's the difference. That's what we're looking for, right? We can go from success, but we're looking for significance. We're looking for something to really empower. And I know I went through that, and I've been reinventing myself for the last 8, 9 years now.
How's it going for you, Jim?
It's going great. I love because I'm tapping into my creativeness. I'm tapping into a whole side of me that I shut off, that I pushed down because of the past narrative that I had growing up through school. I was the same way, low self-esteem, dyslexic, forced in grade 1 to become right-handed when I'm left-handed, and just all the dynamics that led up to. And I quit school. I got out of it. I got out of high school.
That's right, Jim. You didn't even finish high school.
That's right. I've got grade 9 was my last completed year, and that was questionable. I think they gave me some passing marks just to get me through.
Jim, I'm glad you joined me tonight, because I forgot about that. I want to point people, if you want to hear Jim's story, go back to, it's season 2. We're in season 2, episode 6. Jim talks about this and how to build credibility, especially when you haven't had a good start. Like Jim and I here, you may not have had the start that you thought you deserved, but we're here to tell you, you can have the finish.
That's right.
And it's interesting how, when I look back, it'll be 5 years in July when I jumped. I walked away from that corporate job I was talking to you about. Now, I'd been offered promotions. I had a good reputation. There was lots of runway for me to go, but I knew that I had to make a decision. I told myself, I chose it. I faced the fear and I jumped. And so this July is going to be 5 years, and I want to be fully transparent with everybody, because that's just the way I roll. I'm reinventing myself again. And that's what points me to what the announcement is tonight. Are you ready?
We're ready. I'm ready.
Here's the announcement. I've decided that I am going to embark on a world tour.
Wow.
A world tour. And you may say, why? And why should you follow along? Because that's what I'd be asking. Why should I follow? Well, I'll tell you what, full transparency, I do not have a big publishing house behind me. I wrote a book. I wrote 3 books, two co-authorships, 1 solo book called Flashpoint, Manifesting the Moment of Your Big Breakthrough. It's on audio. And we'll see if we can get it cut to a promo on that in a moment. It's on audio, and it's on it's in hard copy. But I don't have a big publishing house. I'm not sitting on, a $200,000 budget to go out and market myself. And the other thing, I asked myself, what's the best way to serve people? And we got some live shares coming in. We'll get those too. Feel free to comment. And that was, Jim, eye to eye, face to face, whether it's virtual, but face to face. I want to get in front of more people in intimate settings. And we're going to talk about the things that are coming up. This is a huge decision for me. This is a decision that it's another jump point. It's not something that I thought I was going to be doing at this stage, but it feels like the right step. What are your thoughts, Jim, in hearing this?
Oh, I'm excited because, I'm thinking back. Our friendship started about 5-6 years ago when you made that first jump. That's where we first met, was when you were making that transition and stepping out into this new world. And I remember in that moment that you had, you were really connecting with your audience. I can remember it clearly. You were connecting with your audience. I remember some of the comments of people just in the background saying, I want to work with this guy. I want to connect with this guy. I want to, jump in with him on this, because they were resonating with what you were saying. Because there isn't, you probably find a lot of people in your audience are at that point where they want to jump, where they want to get out of. They're just doing something. They're 85% of Americans just doing something every day from 9 to 5 that they don't enjoy doing, just to pay a bill, and they want to
Yes.
jump. They want to get out and do something new. And
Yes.
you followed your dreams, and I really admire that. And I think that's what, that kind of set the stage for us to, become friends over these last few years. So it's a privilege for me to be a part of this announcement with you today, saying that, hey,
Yes.
I'm taking this to the next level. I'm
Yes.
packing things up. I'm hitting the road. I think it's just fantastic. I'm excited for you.
Yeah, and we won't get into it now, but Jim and I are working on a project for 2025 that's going to be amazing. Stay tuned for that. That'll be coming out. There's going to be lots of opportunity for you. And I
That's
want to be
hush hush, so I won't say anything. I can't talk about it.
What's that?
I said that's hush hush, so I can't say anything. I got to keep it under wraps.
Well, we can give a little teaser.
A little
if you want.
teaser.
Yeah.
Little ice in the drink.
You brought it up. If you want to go for it, go ahead.
No, I think it's exciting because I've been to this country once before, and I can't wait to return to it. The people are beautiful, the country is beautiful, and I know it's going to inspire so much in so many different people. It's just going to touch them.
Yeah. So first of all, if you're on the podcast, come over to the video. This will be up on the YouTube podcast section. And we're going to get some live shares here too. We're having fun tonight. I'm enjoying this, but it doesn't matter if you don't, I want you to get something from it. So let me be transparent again here. Full transparency. In my effort to serve people, I put out a lot of content on social media platforms, which is a good thing, but it's for some folks, it's like, where should I go? What should I do? What I wanted to do with this tonight is not only make this announcement, but make it easy for folks, make it easy for you to follow along. The easiest thing to do, and I'm going to be rebuilding my list here because I'm going through this reinvention, is to go to the newsletter. I'm going to share that screen right now, and I'll give you if you just go to the website, austinjhaines.com, you'll see it'll say new, start here. But all it is, it's your first name and your email. You will get on the newsletter. I'm going to start communicating via newsletter. It'll be, no more than 5-6 times a month, probably more like once a week. It'll be updates on what's happening, because as a part of this tour, you are going to be privy to the locations. Some of the underlying themes here, which I am passionate about, is poetry, presence, history, people. Things that are going to happen planned, things that are going to be organic. So I want to share this real quick, and then we're going to get to the live shares. If you have a question, throw it out there. Okay, TJ just signed up for the newsletter. Thank you, TJ.
All right.
Yes. All right. Let me pull up the screen here so we can show that to you. And then if you're on the podcast, I'm going to call it out again so you can see it. So if you go to the website, it's new. Start here. It's austinjhaines.com, AustinJahaines.com /newsletter. And it's really easy. It's just a simple form. And again, it's never too late to be who you always believed you could be. I want that quote to sink deep with you. And even if your confidence isn't high, or your self-worth isn't high like mine was years ago, stay with this. So you could put your name and email and submit. And then I also have the podcast links here. As a backup, subscribe to the podcast. So go ahead and do that now if you can. And whenever you can, do it as soon as you can. Don't wait. If you wait, it won't happen. How many times have you said, I'll do that later? Right? Anybody do that? I'll do that later. How many times have you opened up a website on your phone? You go, I'll go back to that. And then you go back and you just delete them all because they're building up. Am I the only one that has done that?
No, I'm with you.
Okay. So there's got to be a better way. Thank you, TJ. Let's see. What's this? This is interesting. Lefties make up only 10% of the population, but studies find that individuals who are left-handed score higher when it comes to creativity, imagination, daydreaming, and intuition. They're also better at rhythm and visualization. I think this was a reference to Jim saying that he was left-handed and they were forcing him to be right-handed.
Yeah. It's so funny because all the remarks that I remember growing up in school that I can recall, when we had parent-teacher nights, I remember that over and over and over, the resounding comment was, if Jim could work outside, he would do really well. In other words, I was just daydreaming. I was gazing out the window all the time. So that's so funny.
Well, Jim, this is why we're kindred spirits, because when I remember in second grade, I distinctly remember the report card said, "Your son is a daydreamer."
Yeah, that's great.
Isn't that funny? So it's the same thing, because I was, my mind, like you're in this like expansive creative space, right? And this is the thing with creative people, but
Yeah.
the great thing about, I think you and I share this, is that we've developed the left side of our brain, which is your, if your right side is creativity, your left side is logic. And although that I'm dominantly a right brain person working in corporate America for 19 years, I had to develop that left side in order to keep a job and to function. And I developed it pretty high, actually. I had some really great organizational skills. But if I don't pay attention, I slip right back into creativity mode, and that's very easy for me to do. So it sounds like we have that in common as well.
Yeah, no, it does. That's great. Love it.
Later never comes. That's a great live comment.
Yeah.
Later never comes. So I want to give some insights on what's happening in the short term, and just leave it open for our live audience. And if you're on the podcast, make sure you subscribe or go to the newsletter. Do something if that's going to be best for you. I am going to pour a lot into this. I think for me and for you, what I decided, again, what's the best way for me to serve? I wanted to make something more experiential. So I'll talk about the world tour, but what's coming up next? I'm going to be in Costa Rica next week.
Wow.
We're going to be creating some content there. Costa Rica. Yeah. It's going to be a nice little reset to let all this marinate and sink in.
Yeah.
And then from Costa Rica, I'm going to come back, and we have a couple events coming up. March 21st, we're doing an auction for Candace Donovan, who has ALS, and she's being displaced from her home. 30 years ago, she was given 6 months to live.
Wow.
30 years ago, 6 months to live. She's still going, and she just got a job, but she's getting displaced from her home. We're trying to raise money. So I'm going to share what we're doing here in a moment. And on that same day, I'm going to be interviewing Nigel Bennett, a famous guitarist from London, who's in this area now. We've become friends. I went to see his show. He's going to come on. He's going to meet me at my home here, and we're going to do a live show. So that's going to be, if you're into music, you're going to love that. And following your dreams. Nigel followed his dreams at a young age, and it worked out for him. He's still doing it. Matter of fact, he's going to see U2 in Vegas right now. He's friends with the band.
Wow.
So he's going out there to hang out with U2 in Vegas. I think they're doing that. They got that Sky Dome thing or whatever it's called. But I want to share this. If you're on the podcast, you want to come over to the video, and I'm going to read this. This is a poem that I wrote. It's called A Bee in Autumn. I don't know if it's going to come up on the video. Hopefully it does, but you can find it on some of my reels. You'll see it. But I want to give a shout out to Kay Gibbons, the artist. She donated this piece of art with the bee and the sunflower that's there.
Wow.
And she painted this. Jim, she painted this back in 2022 before I wrote the poem. So that was really cool. Wow. And then I wrote the poem. She said, wow, she loved it. And now we put it together with the poem and the art. We're going to do an auction for Candace on the evening of the 21st. And so this says, A Bee in Autumn. A bee in autumn, a late flower blooms. A solo traveler, sucking every drop of nectar, even though death looms. Blissfully present, oblivious to winter's specter. So that's A Bee in Autumn. We're going to auction that off. And then in April, I'm going to be doing another Poetry and Presence event. This will all be warm-ups to what's going to happen. And I'm going to pause for a minute because I want to tell folks what else is going on, but I want to give Jim a moment to chime in if he wants to say something here.
Well, I was just thinking about that poem that you wrote. I absolutely love that. And you think of the mentality of a bee, right? It just keeps on going. It knows, it senses the seasons change, but it's still about the stuff. It's still about the work. It's still doing, it's still collecting, it's still harvesting, it's still plugging on. Even though death is coming around the corner, it's still going, it's still doing its thing up until its last moment. And if you've ever seen a bee in the cold, they're still trying to buzz and fly. Even when they're half frozen, they're still trying to carry on because they don't have I don't think it's in them to quit. It's only in them to do what
Yes.
they're called to do. And I think that's such a good parallel lesson for us to learn, not to give up. I think of Les Brown's great quote, if you fall down, fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up.
Yes.
And that is so key. And when you think about the bee, when they fall down, they usually fall on their backs and they're just buzzing, trying to get back up again, because they know no other thing. And I mean, if we adopted that, man, sky's the limit.
That's right on. And that poem was inspired on a real life experience. It was late autumn, and I'm always out in nature, and I'm going to be bringing that a lot. I'm going to be bringing a lot of nature to this for you as well. And there was a bee. I couldn't believe I saw this bee, and there was a flower, and I was like, here's this bee and this late flower and this bee. And if you know anything about bees, at the end, the drones get kicked out of the nest. I don't know if you know that. The drone bees get kicked out of the nest, and they're just there to fend for themselves. And that's what I witnessed and experienced. And I thought, this is wow. And it spoke to me deeply. And then I wrote that poem.
Wow.
And then you just so eloquently interpreted it in your way, which was absolutely beautiful. And yeah, so we're going to be auctioning this off. And I've got chills just talking about it.
Yeah,
it's really a great
piece.
Yeah. And then, there's also going to be a lot more. We're going to be going back to the 9 questions to identify and remove limiting beliefs. I'll be sharing. I'm not going to cover that. I don't want to cover too much. I just want to encourage you to, if you see the value, you hear the value, go over to the website and just sign up for the newsletter. It's simple, and you'll get a lot from this. Or just subscribe to the podcast, because that's a nice way to just be passive, get to know me, follow what's going on, and consider it like a buffet. I want to embody this idea of reinvention. It's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to go and live it. And that's what I want this to be. And this is not a call for you to do what I'm doing. I don't want anybody to go, "Ooh, I'm doing that too." Well, if it's your call, yes. I simply want you to look at that and go, I want to do my thing. And I want to go deeper to discover what my thing is. Maybe you're like Jim, maybe you're burned out and you're feeling like there's a whole nother side that's going to open up for you. I never thought I'd be a poet in a million years. I never said, "Oh, I'm going to be, in middle life and I'm going to be a poet." Like, that would never cross my mind. But like Jim jumped, I jumped. You will discover, in a certain book that we all know, it says your gifts will make a way for you. But if you don't know your gifts, there's a way to move in the direction of what feels good and follow that. So, Jim, I just want to share some of the things on the itinerary.
Yeah, we're excited to hear them.
So what's going to happen is it's going to take a few months to get going. That's why I'm doing this announcement right now. But we're going to start with local stuff here, with the things that you can participate in. The big thing is going to be at the end of June. I'm going to be going to London, England.
Wow. Love London. London.
I've never been. I have family roots there. There's about maybe 3 to 4 hours from London. There's a town there where my family had roots. My plans to go there. There's a chance of Germany and Portugal. I got a neighbor who's moving to Portugal. There's a chance I might be in Portugal. I may have an opening in Germany. And there's other things that I'm looking at. But I am going to be back in the States. And here's the good news. I'm going to be going north. There's some unfinished business up there. But once I come back down, I'm going to make my way into Canada.
Yes.
So that'll be a great opportunity to connect with Jim. I think James McNeil is going to be back at that time. Mandy Robinson is in Canada. I can't wait to connect with her. She came down for one of our events. I'm looking forward to going up there. Gordon Melville. There's just a lot of folks up there that I want to connect with. I have a lot of Canada. It's in my heart because I just love the people there and been there a couple times. And then after Canada, I'll be going back across the United States, hitting some of the national parks. Because the other thing, Jim, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I have a couple friends. Oh, Jordan Peterson, TJ saying Jordan Peterson's Canadian. Yes.
Yes.
I have a couple friends, Jim, that are older. One of them's going to be 99 in July,
Wow.
and the other one's 83. And the one, Bruce is my friend who we communicate every day. He's been studying literature since college. He sends me all kinds of great content. He's a close follower of literature and a lover of literature. He's been a great source of inspiration for me. And the two of them, gentlemen, they don't know each other, but what they have in common, they've never seen the national parks.
Oh,
So
wow.
as a part of this, I want to bring these national parks to them. I want them to experience these things through me. Somebody making the national parks and then moving out west. I've never been to Vancouver. That's a possibility. That's why I said some of this is planned. Some of this is going to be impromptu, but I know I'm going to be connecting with Jim in Canada for sure.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having you back up here. It's been a long time since you've been on this side of the border. So, and coming up in the summertime is a perfect time to experience outdoor living. And yeah, and I mean, if you can do the West Coast and get up into Vancouver, man, you got to check out Vancouver. It's gorgeous.
Well, this is an indefinite trip. So, I mean, I'm going to trust intuition, people that I've met along the way, and there's going to be sponsorship opportunities if you want to come on the show as a guest. A lot of these guest interviews on the podcast are going to be person to person as much as I can. They'll still be virtual because sometimes we just need to do virtual like we're doing tonight, but definitely want to get face to face. I'm sure Jim and I will do something up in Canada. We can plan some events around this. I think this is a great grassroots way to connect intimately to people. Nothing against the big brands that are out there, but you are not, usually you're just one of thousands of people in a system, and those systems are great. And they're, some of them are fantastic, but how many of you agree there's something different when you sit down in an intimate group? You know, Jim, and I know you've had this happen where you just have an intimate group and there's things that are shared and things that happen that you can't do in these bigger groups.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, it's harder for you to, you can't disappear when you're in an intimate group. It's easy to disappear and fall into the woodwork and, you know, into the bleachers that just kind of blend in large groups. But when you're in intimate groups, there's no escape. And it's good to be real. It's good to be in places, you know, to cause ourselves to sit in places like that where we can be real and vulnerable. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I just want to call out a couple people. Tim Mahoney in Chicago. I know I'm going to try to connect with him. He was on one of the shows there. You know, Angel Marie Monticelli in Arizona. I met her before out in Phoenix. I'm going to make a play to get there. There's more. Duchess DJ Love, who was a sponsor of Power Pure Presence.
Yeah.
Who knows where Duchess is, but we connected with her. She's based out of Texas, I believe, and I think she's in South Carolina sometimes, but she travels the world through her platform, Gallivanting Like a Royal. I know we're going to be connecting, and there's many other folks. I'm not going to get to them all tonight, but maybe Tennessee or somebody from Tennessee that we can connect with, maybe TJ, and North Carolina, just all the, Star Hansen in New Mexico. That's another one. She's I guess I'll call her the queen of decluttering, but there's another great episode we did on the podcast. So there's going to be lots of opportunity. I don't want to go too long here. I just want to pause and, just get final thoughts, what you're thinking and feeling. Maybe you want to write it down. If you got some inspiration from this, write it down, type it in your iPhone notes. Maybe if there's an action plan for you, do it. And we'll just kind of pause here. I do want to share. Let me see if I can pull up the book. Jim, I'm going to pause here for a moment.
All right.
And see if I can pull up the book thing, and then we'll bring this into a close.
All right. Sounds good.
Oh, Joe in Florida. That's right. Joe Mattern in Florida. That's right.
Don't forget Joe.
That's right. Joe's got an incredible story. You know, he and I talked about this publicly on my TikTok platform, but we talked about how trauma manifests in the body. And in Joe's case, his manifested in obesity. And on the flip side of this, he became an open water swimmer. It was his way for therapy to get his body healthy. And I think he was down to like 500 pounds, and now he's back up again, but he just redeclared that he's committed. But let me share this, Jim. This is gonna blow your mind.
Yeah.
When he was in this state of dealing with obesity, there's a big lake he would go to. He has literally, when you add up the distance, he swam the entire length of the entire width of Florida.
Wow.
Yes. So he's recommitting his story. He's an inspirational guy, got a great heart, spent time in the aerospace. And I definitely want to make sure people connect with him. He's one of the nicest. Joe is the nicest person and a fantastic swimmer. As a matter of fact, he told me he wants me to get in the water. And I bet he would outswim me. So I'm going to have to get myself in order here to get ready for that. But let me just share this quick commercial, and then we'll close things out here.
Brother, and you know what? You got my favorite book of all time right here.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna tell people to read this one.
So that's Flashpoint. You can get that on the website. I know I'm covering a lot here tonight, but here's the simplicity. Just opt into the newsletter. It's the easiest way to stay connected to what I'm doing. And I just want to give everybody who's followed to this point, who consistently checks in with me, I want to give you a heartfelt thank you. I have love and appreciation, and I want to tell you, you can relaunch as many times as you need to, because the people that what's that quote, Jim? The people that you know what I'm talking about. The people that mind don't matter. The people that matter, you know what I'm talking about? What's that quote?
Yeah. It's getting muddled in my mind too.
All right, we got to get that quote. Somebody's got to get that quote, and that's how we'll end it here. The people that judge you the most, they don't matter. The people that care for you, what is that? Oh, somebody look up that quote. We'll get that. We'll put that in the show notes. So, Jim, I want to thank you for being on here tonight. Is there any final thoughts before we close?
Yeah. I mean, my final thoughts are to your listeners. I want to encourage them to jump on and sign up for that newsletter, follow you on this journey. And here's why. Because we learn our most through experiences. And when we can't, we can live through, everything we do is an experience. And we live and we learn and we grow from them. But we can also learn and grow from the experiences of others. We can live vicariously through them. So to follow Austin on this journey will benefit you in that you will be able to learn things from his experiences. The experiences that he's going to grow through, the stuff he's going to share will touch your heart and will encourage you along your journey as well. And I encourage you to sign up for the newsletter, but have a journal book ready, because you're going to be getting lots of insights and lots of downloads over this journey that Austin goes through. You're going to be journeying through with him. And so I want to encourage your listeners to get out there and do that, because I think
And Jim, you just reminded me, I got a couple other things to share. Well, first of all, here's the quote. Thanks, TJ. Those that matter don't mind, and those that mind don't matter. Right? That's the quote I was trying to think of. Those that matter don't mind. So those people that really care for you, they don't mind. The people that mind, that are bothered, they don't matter. They're not going to do anything anyway. And that's a Dr. Seuss quote. That is brilliant. So I want to close with this. And I'm going to bring back more in the next podcast. So I'll bring this up more in the next podcast. And I'm going to do actually a nice little bonus for people. This is going to be my gift for the next, let's see, we'll cap the number. But if you opt in to that newsletter, I got a bonus for you. And here it is. In September of 2020, I did another trip. It was short term. It was a 34-day cross-country road trip. I created a digital mini course called The Journey to Freedom. And there's people that are going through it right now. But what I also did was I had an interview series called Inspirational Places, Faces, and Traces. It tracks the whole journey of that 34-day road trip. I have it in a playlist. If you opt in, I will share that playlist with you, complimentary. If you just did that alone, You would be incredibly inspired. The people that I met will blow your mind. I did not, and they were not planned. But when you're on purpose, the plan gets created and the people you attract. So I want to encourage you, if you're getting this podcast, opt in. I might just make that a permanent part to inspire you and get you ready for what's to come, because it's going to be even better. So thanks, Jim. I want to give you a heartfelt thank you for doing this with me tonight.
It's my privilege. I'm honored to be here with you.
Yeah. And I want to tell people to connect with Jim at jimh360.com. You will definitely want to get into Jim's world. And like I said, season 2, episode 6, it was a few episodes back. Listen to the podcast, what Jim shares. You know, there's a great quote. It says, great talent ripens late. Great talent ripens late. And when we get in midlife, we forget about that. It's time to be reminded. It's never too late to become who you always believed you could be.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next time on the Austin James Haynes podcast. Have a great night.